Hey y'all, welcome back to the Pint Sized Farm, where we live life on a budget here in Texas. Today we'll be making marinara sauce as well as canning it to make it shelf stable. You can multiply this recipe as many times as you'd like for as big of a batch as you'd like. Begin by washing and prepping all of your vegetables, including roasting some garlic. You don't have to do the roasted garlic, you can use regular, but I like the depth of flavor it gives. I begin by chopping all of my vegetables. You'll see here that I am making a large batch, so I am using more than what's on the recipe card, but for a single batch you're going to use 2 green, 1 or 2 red bell peppers, and half of an onion. Don't worry, those jalapenos in the background are going in another recipe. I'll be using an immersion blender during this cooking process. If you don't have one, you want to dice your veggies much smaller than I have here. Now you'll just cook your veggies until tender. I add about a teaspoon of salt. I like to use sea salt for this during the cooking process to help sweat the veggies to release that extra water from them. Once my veggies are softened, I'm going to begin to add my tomato products. 2 28-ounce cans of crushed tomatoes and 1 14.5-ounce can of fire roasted tomatoes. And then I use my immersion blender and soften it all up and break up all those bigger chunks of vegetables that I used in the first step. Now I like to add just 1 can of the crushed tomatoes here while I do the immersion, and then I add the additional tomato products after that. You can blend this to whatever consistency you like, either a real fine smooth puree or you can leave it a little bit chunky. I use the back of my spoon to test and continue to blend until I have the consistency I like. Now keep in mind, I'm going to be canning this recipe, so it's going to be much larger, but I do have a recipe card at the end of the video that shows you how to make a single batch of this marinara sauce. Once you've added all your tomato products, we're going to be adding our spice mixture. To this, that's going to be 2 tablespoons of sugar, a tablespoon of chicken bouillon, 2 tablespoons of oregano, a tablespoon of basil, or I prefer to use 3 fresh basil leaves, and I leave them right on the stem and just toss them in the sauce. An alternate would be using 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning. After I let this simmer for 30 minutes, it's time to can it up. With your clean, warm jars, begin filling with sauce, leaving 1 inch of headspace. With the single recipe listed on the recipe card, you will get 3 quarts. Once your jars are full, it is very important that you wipe the rim. I use a paper towel and white vinegar to ensure there's no food particles on the rim to get a good seal. You will then place your lids and rings and only tighten the rings finger tight. This is going to be water bath canned. I have a large pot of boiling water that I'm going to place my jars down into, and when I've completely filled this pot, I want to make sure the water is at least 1 to 2 inches above the top of the jars. Once all the jars are in the pot, I will bring it up to a boil, cover, and continue to boil for 30 minutes. Once that's done, I turn it off, let it cool for about 5 minutes, and remove all the jars. Let your jars rest for 24 hours and then remove the rings and wash your jars to ensure they have all sealed. You've now completed the process of canning homemade marinara. We hope you've enjoyed this video and that you'll try your own batch of marinara sauce soon. Next week, we'll be out in the flock yard doing some work. As always, we hope you'll subscribe and click the bell so you'll be notified of all new content.